Welcome to the How to Succeed podcast, the show that helps you get to the top and stay there. This is How to Succeed with KARE Account Planning. I'm your host, Mike Montague, and my guest this week is Patrick Carroll, a longtime Sandler trainer from Virginia. And the following podcast is copyrighted by Sandler Systems, Inc., protected by U.S. copyright laws. Sandler is the worldwide leader in sales, management, and customer service training. You can subscribe to this podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts, and please share it with somebody that you think needs to hear it. This is How to Succeed at KARE Account Planning. Patrick, welcome to the podcast. Tell me a little bit about KARE and what does that mean?
So KARE is actually an acronym, and it's really a simple process, yet incredibly powerful. And just like anything at Sandler, Mike, we've got a lot of great tools, but it comes down to getting it applied. But really, it's a practical account profiling framework that breaks it down into 4 categories. So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Awesome. Now let's start with the attitude maybe for account planning in the first place, because I think you got to do some things to get your head right here to even kind of be in the space to plan accounts. And maybe you've been assigned accounts, or maybe you've been around for a while, or maybe you're brand new and you don't have any idea where you're going. There's a lot of places that people could be when getting started.
And I think, when it comes to attitude, I think a lot of reps and sales leaders can kind of rest on their laurels. So I want to have the attitude of one of opportunity and proactiveness versus limitation and reactiveness. So, that's what I want people thinking, as far as mindset today is, where can I find the opportunities? How can I be proactive within my account bases?
Yeah, I think that's really good. And then we should probably just talk about what the 4 KARE things are here off the bat, because then I think there's different attitudes for each bucket, right?
Absolutely. So it's KARE with a K. So the K is for keep. Those are our top accounts, right? Without a lot of room for growth. Those are the ones we want to keep. If we lost them, it would sting a little bit. And when we look at our keep accounts, Mike, when you think about it, those are our competition's top prospects. So what are we doing to keep our accounts happy and kind of protecting from somebody else coming to pillage our account?
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And you can just roll through all 4 and then we'll circle back and talk about it.
And then attain, those are your target prospects that fit your ideal client profile. Those are the net new business. Those are like your top 20 accounts that you're trying to break into. So it's net new business or attain accounts. Then we look at recapture for the R. Those are accounts that maybe wrote us checks in the past. We did business with them, but for whatever reason, they're not writing us checks anymore. So what are our strategies to kind of recapture that old business for whatever reason? And then sometimes, here's a little bonus on the R. I look at it as resurrection as well. How are we going and resurrecting maybe old pursuits or lost deals and re-engaging in that conversation? And then lastly is expand for the E. Those are our existing accounts. They have a lot of growth opportunity. We want to increase maybe wallet share in those accounts. We've got a small percentage of business in there, maybe one location or maybe one part of our product or service, and there's opportunity for more growth. So what are we doing to expand those accounts? So those are the 4 categories that we look at, Mike. And, in most sales environments, you've got people that have to maintain and have responsibilities for all. And then you have others that maybe have one component or a couple that they are responsible for.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going to go, because I think naturally they group into a couple of buckets. So the keep and expand kind of go together. You probably have somebody in customer success, or you're having some portion of your role paying attention to clients you already have. That seems smart. And then the acquire and the recapture are both sort of outgoing prospecting things for people that you don't have yet. And so they have a business development role or some sort of responsibilities in your organization, right?
Certainly. Yeah. It's kind of like, I don't like to go to the old adage of the hunter farmer model, but that's kind of what it looks like. And, in my experience, Mike, really a lot of sales environments, when you boil it down, sellers typically have one of two roles or both, right? It's either protecting and growing existing relationships, or they're going out and plundering to win other relationships. So either protecting or plundering. And if you're on the call, I mean, your responsibilities might be different and your strategies are going to determine how you use the KARE model. All right. But a lot of my clients, and it's all over the map, Mike, as far as I've got some accounts, their reps only hunt. They only go after attain accounts. Once they win the business, they hand it over to their account management team. And there's really no interaction from the sales rep with that account anymore. Then I've got groups where they do both. They have to manage relationships, existing accounts, grow them, renew them, but also they've got responsibility to cut new ground and bring in net new business as well.
Yeah.
So you see it all over the map.
So let's jump into behavior, because I've also kind of seen compensation all over the map where you might be, having higher commissions on keep stuff or higher commissions on new business. And so that can really affect your behavior and where you're spending your time. But I also kind of think that for most businesses, the keep and expand accounts are the most profitable ones. You're not spending marketing dollars or presentation dollars, or a lot of like extra money working on those internal ones. How do you think about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, what you'll always hear is it's cheaper to sell to your existing accounts than go win new business. Now, what I think you've seen through the COVID era, Mike, is a lot of organizations that we've worked with in the past on kind of the attain recapture buckets. They came to us and said, wait a second, we've got to do a better job of protecting what we have and keeping what we have right now. So, but you're right, Mike. I think the comp plans are going to you want your compensation plans to reward the right behavior, right? So I see sales groups where, if they're kind of hunter, they do both, but they're going to really reward you for bringing in new accounts. They're trying to push you into that attain bucket, right? Now, here's the problem though, Mike. Reps are you think reps are always going to find they're making sure that they're doing the most high value behaviors, right? To get the biggest return on investment, but that's not reality. Unfortunately,
yeah,
we're kind of like, cattle. We find the path of least resistance, especially when it comes into our comfort zones, right? You've got certain people that want to just hang out in certain accounts, but they don't really generate a lot of opportunity for us, but it's comfort zone. Or you see other reps that they only sell certain products and services. They kind of stay in the low hanging fruit and they don't sell the higher value or higher ticket items. They're kind of stuck in their comfort zones, right? They don't care about the comp plan. All they want to know is, how am I going to get paid? They're not looking at maybe a healthy business mix like a sales leader might be, right? We need to get more different accounts in a healthy business mix as opposed to going after all the same business over and over again. But
yeah, I think you bring up an interesting point about the pandemic and stuff too, is now we're seeing inflation where a lot of people are trying to keep accounts during price increases and other things that can be even a more difficult sale maybe than it was originally to get it the first time.
Yeah. So what we're seeing though, Mike, that's a great lead into behavior. There's more reps having to have that kind of price increase conversation. They're having more difficult conversations with their accounts on lead times and price increases. But luckily, I think a lot of people are numb to it at this point. They get it. They see what's going on at the pump. They see what's going on in their local supermarket. They kind of get that the product they got quoted 3 months ago is not going to cost the same as it does today. It's going to be 10, 15% higher per se. But the behavior of making those calls wasn't evident. That's a new behavior for some people right now. Mm-hmm. That might challenge comfort zones for some folks. But when I think of behavior with the KARE model, it's all about doing the right behavior with the right people or accounts. That's what it boils down to in my mind, Mike. And if you walk away with a behavior from today, it should be, what are my specific strategies or activities that match my account segment, right?
Can you give us some examples?
Exactly. So for example, your strategies, well, can I share, maybe this will help us if I give us a little analogy on like kind of the animal kingdom for a second. Okay. Think about this for a second, Mike. Or snakes or spiders. All right. So a snake, a king cobra versus a garter snake that you find in your flower garden at home. Both snakes, fair?
Yeah.
Right? Or you have existing accounts, right? But they might behave differently. So that snake, that king cobra, you're going to treat that particular snake a little bit differently than you would a garter snake, right? That thing can kill you versus that thing's harmless, right? If we go and treat them the same, like our accounts, and treat everyone the same, we're not going to get the results we're looking for. It's not that effective, right? Same thing with like a spider, like a black widow versus a granddaddy longleg, right? A little bit different. Harmless versus it will kill you. It's venomous. So really when you think about it, Mike, the black widow and the king cobra have more in common than their existing species, right? So I think if we go and treat a keep account the same way we do an expand account, it's not going to resonate. For example, like you're not going to cold call in an attain bucket. It's like, what are my top 3 or 4 strategies to keep that account? What are my top 3 or 4 strategies to attain that account? And then so on and so forth, right? So each strategy and behavior is going to be more applicable or not applicable depending on where you're spending your time.
Yeah, I think all that's fair. And it takes us right into techniques here is I think people want to know what's working in each one of those buckets, or what does that look like? So if we just took, each one of those, what would you say are some of the top 1 to 3 things to actually do with these different categories?
Certainly. One of the things that I think is kind of the dark horse on technique is when I look at the KARE model is referral introductions. If let's pretend for a moment that we have responsibilities in all 4 categories. We have to keep and expand accounts. We have to go win, attain, and recapture new and old accounts. We have to do it all. Here's what I really have learned by making a cookbook out of the KARE model, helping my clients use it and actually get some results from it. It really boils down to how are you using the keep and expand accounts to feed your attain bucket?
Right.
How are we going and making these touch calls to our existing accounts, maybe doing what I call more, better, different calls when we go to our keep and expand accounts and we have a normal interaction with them, but we say, hey, Mike, when we look at a relationship, is there something I should be doing more of with you and your team? Or is there something we should be doing better or different? And that gets the conversation going about kind of satisfaction, where they are. And then that leads right into what we call value transfers. You've probably heard that from Rosso and some of the 21st century prospecting is how are we using those value transfers within our existing account bases to launch us into the attain and recapture buckets? To me, I think that's where a lot of the gold is. And I think we kind of get blinders or we lose our peripheral vision as a seller sometimes. And the KARE model gets us making sure that we're not losing a focus or attention on an account base that might be really, ripe for revenue opportunity. It's just right underneath our nose and we're not paying attention to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, that's really been a large focus of my career, and what I found success with is that if you really get good at keeping your clients and you have less churn, you don't need to attain as many. And then, if you don't lose them, you're not trying to recapture as many, but it's easier to expand. You get more referrals into new business. And if people love what you're doing and they're willing to tell people about it, those kind of things naturally flow from there. But I also know that sometimes you just don't have those relationships into one. You're trying to recapture or attain, and that you need to go and do outbound prospecting, or sometimes it's not your role when you're starting as the new salesperson either. You don't have any business, so you got to attain some before you can keep them, right?
So exactly. And another technique that just popped in my head, Mike, was multi-threading. You've heard of multi-threading, right? Where you're talking to multiple decision makers in an account, maybe in a pursuit, right? But I think about that. How are we multi-threading in existing accounts? What I mean by that is you've heard of OCD, right? One contact disorder in an account. Or a lot of reps suffer from OCD, one contact disorder. So the proverbial bus runs over your contact, they leave, okay? They're gone. Now we're back to what? Square one. If we don't have if we're not going deeper and wider in the account and multi-threading and saying, hey, Mike, I know we've been working a lot on these projects, but if you were me, is there anybody else on the team I should be getting to know? Right. Yeah. And trying to find pathways, or is there anybody else that wants to have a say in this, as we design this next phase in the project, who else wants to be involved in this and get their fingerprints on it? Trying to get other people involved and figure out who the other key stakeholders may be, so you're not left starting from scratch. When
I think that's another good one for every bucket there, because obviously that's a great expand strategy. It's good to keep because you're not losing one, but I've even found that in recapture accounts that sometimes one person hated you. It was just like, Bill did not like your style, it didn't work, but you know what, Bill's gone now, we'd love to talk to you again. Or in acquire accounts or attain, that you are if you're only going through the purchasing department, that's not going to work. If you're only talking to the CEO, maybe that he's too busy or gets distracted by other priorities, or she is worried about a different part of the business at the moment. But if you look into multi-threading those attain accounts, a lot of good things happen. They start talking to each other about it and go, wow, it sounds like there's something here, because it's coming up multiple times, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you see typically with account planning and territory planning and segmentation is that it's all based off kind of geography and account size and things of those nature. And there's just more traits and tendencies that come into play, going back to the animal analogy. But I think when you come down to behavior and bringing it back to kind of some actionable things maybe a seller or sales leader can do to use the KARE model, one of the things that I'd ask you to do is list all your top prospects in existing accounts, and then segment those using your own customized traits or tendencies in the KARE model. Put them in a bucket. Where do they fit? And then what I want you to do is ask yourself, or ask your sellers on your team, where are you spending your time? If you were to kind of put a percentage of where your time's allocated in these accounts, what number would you put on it? And what you'll find every time, Mike, is maybe they're spending too much time in areas where they shouldn't be, right? Or they're too much over here. If they got all 4 responsibilities, they're hanging out with their buddies in their keep account, and they're not doing their behavior in the attain bucket per se. So that's what you'll see. That's what will come out. And then what I'll ask you or a seller or sales leader is create a cookbook based off your KARE structure and designation, where you should be spending your time. If I'm a seller and 50% of my time should be in attain, that's where most of my behavior should be, right? So build a cookbook off that. I've even seen people, and I've done it myself, Mike, you calendar block based off attain. This for 90 minutes, I'm doing all attain activity in this particular part of my prospecting calendar. And I'll work my calendar based off KARE and kind of make sure I'm doing a little bit in each bucket every week.
Yeah, I love that. I think building the cookbook or the behavioral plan is huge. If you want to learn more about a cookbook, we have plenty of podcasts on that too. Just search cookbook in whatever app you're listening to this on. And once again, we're talking with Patrick Carroll, Sandler trainer from Richmond, Virginia. And I wanted to get to know you a little bit better here, Patrick. So
Sure.
tell me about, at this point in your career, how do you define success?
Well, success is kind of in the eye of the beholder, right? So I appreciate the question. And really, when I think of success, it's you set a goal and you achieve it. Whatever you set forth to do and you accomplish it, that's success in my mind. And when you and success, right? I love what you do on this podcast with the behavior, attitude, technique, the BAT triangle. And that's, you boil it down, that's success, right? And anything you do in life, and that's why it works for you. You use it every time and every topic because it applies to everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're getting better in attitude, behavior, and technique, it's pretty hard to not find success at
There
some
you
point.
go.
Was there a biggest hurdle or lesson learned in your career that you had to get over in order to be successful?
Yes, it was get out of my own way, Mike. And Mike, I think we have a little bit of a same Sandler upbringing, right? My first exposure to Sandler was on a cassette tape in my dad's car in like 1998. I think I was 12 or 13 years old, right? Yeah. And I was like, what is this stuff, Dad? Like, can you turn the radio on? This stuff is weird, right? I'm listening to it like in middle school going, what is this stuff? Okay. So I think I had a little bit of that father-son block of being ready to learn, right? I wish I would have got out of my own way and got my self-limiting beliefs and attitude, my head trash out earlier, right? But better late than never, right? But I had that, it was getting rid of the head trash and get out of my own way and belief system to finally go, aha, here it is.
Yeah, I definitely had some of that. And in the car, it was Sandler or Rush Limbaugh on family trips. And so we chose Sandler, and we got to hear all those tapes in high school plenty of times.
Now
but
look it up.
It does give you a weird kind of head start, though, that can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you look at it.
I say, Dad, I may have would have listened to you more if you maybe strip lined, right? You're telling me what to do. I just resisted, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I would definitely use it on my dad. And then on teachers, it was funny. And, in high school and college, I had to put wrong answers on tests about sales to get a good grade, because I was like, oh, this is definitely not how you do it, but I know this is the answer you're looking for. It was great. Do you have a favorite Sandler rule then?
I do. Can I share two, or do I have to pick one, Mike?
Sure. Let's do two.
Okay, right. I think my favorite technique rule for Sandler is Sandler rule number 15, which is the best presentation you'll ever give, the prospect will never see. That's kind of a head trip for some people, right? But it's really about the questions, the stories we share, right, will help the prospect self-discover we're the right fit for them. That's what that rule means to me. And it's really the essence of Sandler. Let the prospect sell themselves, close themselves. Tell stories, listen more than you talk. And then probably one of my favorite that gets a rise out of a lot of the clients in a if you get a boot camp of 30 people and you put this rule up, Sandler rule 41, there are no bad prospects, only bad salespeople. I just like the reactions of folks, right? And all that in group, don't take these rules literally, right? You got to put them into reality. But what that means is, as a seller, you have to take responsibility for your pipeline and your book of business. Yes, there are bad prospects out in this world, but it's our choice as a seller to determine if we want to pursue them or not. It's your choice. And that's what that rule comes down to. Take responsibility. Don't point the finger, point the thumb. That's how we get better.
Yeah, I think for that one, for me too, it's that you're getting paid as a professional to be a communicator here, right? If there's a communication challenge, that's your job as the salesperson to fix it, not the prospects. They don't get paid to bend to your sales process and your personality throughout the process.
Yeah, that's what one of my favorite Mattson one-liners is, as a seller, you get paid to be flexible, right? It's our responsibility to keep the prospect okay, right? Our okayness comes second.
Yeah. So let's get back to KARE and wrap it up for everybody. Based on keep, attain, recapture, and expand, what is one attitude you'd like people to have?
So the attitude I want people to have when it comes to KARE is an outlook of opportunity and proactiveness. drop the limitation and reactiveness. A lot of people these days is, how do we become proactive within our existing accounts? So have an open mind to connect those dots.
And one behavior or action item you'd like people to do.
So behavior, identify your specific strategies or activities for your target account segment. All right. And make sure you're paying attention to your time allocation, right? Where are you spending your time? Are you doing the right behaviors at the right time with the right accounts?
And finally, the best technique, tool, or hack to use.
Hey, the best technique tool, I'll just pick up from Sandler Rule 15, which is the 70-30 rule, right? Listen more than you talk. Questions and stories is what sell and prove that you heard them. I think that's technique applies in any bucket when it comes to the KARE model.
I love it. Again, Patrick Carroll, Sandler trainer from Virginia. If you would like more information on Sandler, go to sandler.com. You can click on find a training location and find Patrick and our other 200 locations around the world, and some free resources there under the resources tab as well. You can subscribe to this podcast. Again, send it to somebody that you think needs to hear it. Thank you for listening. And remember, whatever you are, be a good one. The How to Succeed podcast is brought to you by Sandler, the worldwide leader in sales, management, and customer service training. For more information, visit sandler.com.
The Sandler Summit